Okay, we are live, but I just so respect what you do and I think it's incredible.
It is a really, really creative job and it takes you to amazing places to meet brilliant people. My family are Scottish. To me, that was bliss. It still is. It's where I think of as the most heavenly place.
Hello and welcome to the Farmette podcast. I'm your host, Tamara Warhurst, and this is the show where we talk about the importance of the countryside and how it has shaped my guest's life. I have asked my guests to choose from a selection of themes from the countryside that have directly impacted their life. Today, I'm joined by a lady who grew up on the wilder side of life, surrounded by animals. She is the creative director of Tattie Rose Studio, known for her abundant, earthy yet romantic designs inspired by the bounty of each season. She sources ingredients from local growers and foragers wherever possible, transforming spaces from ordinary to extraordinary with flowers, greenery, trees, structures, and light, creating impact through scale, while focusing on the small details that make every design unique. She is continuously commended for discretion, warmth, originality, and true personal service, always pushing creative boundaries while remembering to be kind to the land that inspires it all. Tattie Rose Isles, welcome to the Farmette podcast. This is your rural life.
Hi, Tamara.
It is such a pleasure to have you on my podcast today and to meet you finally. Listeners, I want to give you just a brief insight into how Tattie and I have a sort of brief relationship. Is that I lost my cousin last year in the New Orleans terror attacks, and at the Chelseaflowershow, Tattie and the Atlantic Salmon Trust joined together to create this incredible display at the Bullring Gates, which was in memory of my dear cousin Ed, who was a huge advocate for saving wild salmon. And sadly, we didn't actually get to meet at Chelsea Flower Show. But I can't wait to dive in and hear all about it and how you felt it went last year.
It was amazing, and it was so sad not to meet you, but wonderful to meet your amazing family, who so warmly joined me into the Atlantic Salmon Trust for this brief period and to make this commission for them.
Yeah. Now tell me, what was it like doing something on not just a sort of scale as in size of the actual gates that you decorated, but in such a public way?
Well, it's we're pretty used to doing things that are quite public. Obviously, Chelsea is sort of it doesn't get much more prestigious for a florist just because of it being the flower show. And doing the Bullring entrance is a big, it's such an honor. And it was sort of terrifying, but actually I think the thing that mattered most to me was not what the public thought, but actually it was so personal last year that it really mattered to me that the people behind the whole story of the gate felt that it did what it was supposed to do, which I think we did do. And it was, so actually the pressure came from there, not from them, not that they knew it, but it was definitely for me, that was the sort of important thing for me.
Well, I can tell you that you absolutely nailed it in spades. I mean, it was, for anyone that didn't see it, we'll try and get a photograph to show you, but it was the most beautiful, intricate, sort of wild, totally wild display that summed up salmon and floristry, and just the whole thing was just absolutely mind-blowing.
A bit of a shock to the Chelsea system, who aren't perhaps quite as wild as we are.
Hadn't you also just had a baby?
Yes, I had just had a baby, so she was a couple of months old.
Oh my God, you are mad. Was she there with you throughout the week? Did you sort of...
She wasn't actually. I felt, because I had to install it overnight, it would have been a nightmare doing it with her. So it was the first time I left her, actually, but she was my fourth. And the others did all come with me on jobs, and she has been on a few. But my husband by that point was very used to looking after it.
He was equipped and ready to look after.
He was
number
pretty
4.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Oh my goodness me. Originally, how did you get into floristry? How did all this start?
Well, I left school without really much of an idea of what I wanted to do, and I was a bit of a wild spirit. And the thought of going to university and sort of sitting in a classroom for more years was torture. So I started just doing as a holiday job working for a florist, because it meant I could be outside, and it was quite physical and, creative, which I think was probably where I spent most of my time in the art room. Anyway, I did it for a summer and I completely loved it. And it wasn't really the flowers, actually. I'm not really a very floral person, which sounds a bit strange, and everyone sort of giggles when I say that, but I'm really not actually very flowery. But I think it is a really, really creative job, and it takes you to amazing places to meet brilliant people, and you're working in a sort of building things but using natural ingredients. So for me, it sort of ticked all the boxes, really.
Yeah, exactly. Well, flowers can transform spaces and create huge emotions and feelings, which I felt, especially when I saw the bull ring, which you did. But when you walk into a blank space, how on earth do you picture sort of what it's going to look like when you've done your magic on it?
Well, that's really the thing I think that maybe makes us different. And I say this often when anyone asks me, is that I actually don't start with how it will look like, what it will look like. I try and ask my client or whoever is orchestrating it what they actually want it to feel like. And we sort of start from that point. And then otherwise you focus people, it's such a visual world that people come with all these sort of pre-made images and it's sort of, I think, a slightly doesn't sit right with me. And I think so I usually go into a space and I ask them what they wanted to feel like, and we work from there. And we take into scale is hugely important, getting the scale right. The sort of little tiny details come last of all. Really, those two things are a good starting point. And whether you want your people to feel like they're in a really intimate sort of embracing environment, or something that is actually quite still and maybe a little bit more minimal and gives you room to think, and I think when you start like that, it's a good place to begin.
Yeah. What's been the most sort of moving brief you've been given, like where someone said, I want it to feel like X?
Oh, good question. I actually I rather love doing, it will sound a bit strange, but I find there's something very, it's a great honour to be asked to do flowers for a funeral for someone or a memorial service. It's a very personal and I take it quite seriously. And I was asked to do flowers for a funeral in Tewkesbury Abbey, and they said to me that they wanted it to feel like his garden, and it was quite a big ask in an abbey where you also didn't want it to feel like a wedding. So that made me really have to think about how to make this feeling without it being too much, getting a nice balance of it not sort of taking over, but sort of also making them it was to make the family feel relaxed, actually, and not so they joining wishes together. So that was quite a tricky one, but all of them are in different ways, and sometimes clients don't necessarily know what they want either, and then you sort of reading them and reading all the different personalities that come together who are part of something, and it's picking the little bits out from everyone. So you have to be quite good with people as well.
Definitely. And what I find, what is interesting about the job that you do is that everything is sort of done in the background, yet it's one of the most important things on the day that people see.
Yeah.
So you're not necessarily there on the day. You don't get to see it with all the people in and people enjoying what you've created. And for that part, I am a bit sad that you guys don't get to see that, because that's where your incredibly hard work is so, appreciated.
Well, that's true, but actually, it's funny. I sort of, as we get nearer to the end of a job, I almost can't look. I sort of go back to the back of the house and sweep the van out and load the van. I don't know. There's this funny part of it that I have that I think I could keep going forever on it.
Yes,
or let's just tweet this, let's tweet that. So I just take myself away, and the team will go, Tattie, it's done. You've got to come and see it. All the candles are lit, and I'm like, no. I'm gonna. I trust you. It's and also you thought about it for so many months, or years, or however long, and then there's this funny thing of it being something you've made. And anyway, and maybe I'm a little bit awkward as well, so I take myself off to sweep them up.
Can I ask you something a little bit niche, but what is the most that someone's ever spent on flowers?
Oh golly, I mean, we had some extraordinary budgets, but really it's almost hard to say, because it's not necessarily the flowers that they're spending a lot of money on, it's the logistics of places abroad. And so we've done flowers in the mountains in Sweden where we had to get lorry loads through snow, up tracks in the snow, and it was -25. And so before you can even sort of begin to even think about buying a flower, the logistics of making things like that happen, and on private islands and Venice lagoons and things.
How on earth do you do that? How on earth do you do that?
Well, anything's possible, but flowers are tricky, because unlike almost anything else, they're like working with naughty children, really.
You have to keep them alive.
You have to keep them alive, and they can change week to week. You can use one thing one week, and the next week it reacts in a totally different way, perhaps because it was a really wet week, and so they are very tricky. So those ones are logistically tricky. The one in Sweden was really tricky because it was too cold. Usually it's too hot, but this was so cold that things died from the trip from the lorry into just on that in -25. Things were, things can die in seconds. So
so you're problem solving all the time.
And dealing with these naughty little ingredients who totally sort of have fun.
Don't want to live.
Yeah, exactly.
Has there been a moment when you're doing an event and you thought, oh no, we really aren't going to get this done, and then you do?
I haven't, because I think you can always, we've got an amazing team. I'm probably at the beginning, I expect. I mean, I used to do jobs with just one or two of us that now I would have 12 people on, and we would work all through the night and sleep in the back of the van. And probably then, luckily, I think PTSD has blocked that out for me. But I did do one wedding where it was a beautiful sort of traditional marquee in a field, and we came in the next morning and a deer had gotten and eaten quite a lot of what was on the tables and the bottom of the poles.
Oh no!
But things like that. I mean, they sort of make for a good story afterwards. And there was, I don't know. Also, you have to keep an element of perspective on these things. It is flowers for a party. It's not saving lives in the so I am very quick to remember that whenever things seem a bit disastrous. It's definitely not going to be the end.
How many is your sort of base team now? How have you grown?
We have a team of about 4 or 5 of us, but we have lots of freelancers, and actually because we do a very select number a year, so it takes a lot of planning time, but as like mentioned, with all the logistics around them.
Yes, exactly.
So we don't need a massive core team, and it's so seasonal as well. But also I'll add that a lot of my freelance team are my friends and my family, and they have been for many years. And that's how I like to work. I never actually really take people on who are florists, because it's very different from flowers, I think, what we do. Yeah. So it's more about people who work really well in our team, and who will be brave and be inventive, and that sort of matters more than actually what you're like with flowers.
Yeah, totally. Oh God. I mean, I really, God, what you do is, it is sort of the back end of events, and it is such an important part of it. Um, but I just so respect what you do, and I think it's incredible.
Oh,
But what we're going to do is we're going to move on to your rural life,
yeah.
and we're going to start with the person that sort of anchored you, taught you all about the countryside. Who is that?
Well, when I was thinking about this question, I am lucky because I have a quite a long list of people that I could think of, but there is one particular person who is godfather to my oldest son, and he's called James, and he's one of my greatest friends. But he is feral, and he will take that as a compliment.
Yeah.
He he's Scottish, and I spending time with him makes you feel like you have sort of buried yourself in the soil and you know it better. He really loves. He works on the land. He's a forester. He has very little interest in cities. He really loves the countryside,
Yeah.
and I he understands it and he listens to it and he reacts to it. And I first met him doing actually I was doing flowers for Blair Athol horse trials, which was a bit of a sort of funny one right back in the early days.
Yes. Yeah.
And I was decorating the dressage arenas, and it was the wildest storm, and these flowers were flying everywhere, and I had this deadline. It was dark and the rain was pouring, and out jumped this young guy from the back of a landy and said, "You look like you need some help." And he came out and he helped me for 2 hours trying to wrestle these flowers into these containers, and we were absolutely soaked, and there was a party going on in the house for all the staff, but we weren't there because he was doing it. And and he went, "Tattie, just embrace this, just go with it, like it is what it is, it's Scotland, just don't fight it, you know."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh," he was like, "Yeah, but they've done an event in Scotland, so they can only get what they can get there, you know."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, that's true. I could really enjoy this. I could hate it, or I could really enjoy this." So, and from then on, there was this friendship, and he lives in a very sort of wild place, and I just, yeah. So he is my real sort of person that I think of when I think of the
Yeah.
countryside.
And also, I think he obviously in that moment made you love the all aspects of the countryside. Like, you love the rain, you love the hot, love the cold, and that is an all-round country person. You've got to embrace those weather
Yeah.
moments, because if you don't, you'll never get anything done.
No.
You know, if you're working outside, you've got to be prepared to work in all weathers.
Exactly. And actually,
Yeah.
I think I don't know if you find this, but having a job to do outside in those weathers makes you survive the winter. I feel like
100%.
it gets you out there, and then you
Yeah.
feel better for it. It's when you don't have anything to do outside. I can't imagine not having an animal to look after in the winter. I think I would sort of shrivel up, because you don't have that real pull, that force to be out there, and therefore you don't embrace it. You just sort of fight it, and you know. And so I definitely I think you're exactly right about that. You just got to love it, and then you'll enjoy it.
Exactly. So the place that you have chosen today doesn't surprise me, just purely because of the way that you say you sort of grew up so wildly. It is Scotland. Tell us about the place.
Well, my family are Scottish, but I grew up in an army family, so we moved a lot. But our base was Scotland, especially my grandparents' house, which is in Galloway. My granny was born there, and then they travelled the world and then ended up settling back there. And they had this beautiful little house by a mile down a track, looking over a loch, and it's called Nethercray. Sadly, they don't live there anymore because they've moved down south to be near all of their 17 great grandchildren, I think they've got.
Wow.
I know. To me, that was bliss. Still is. It's where I think of as the most heavenly place on earth. And I really miss it. But I also, when you were asking me, I also realised that a lot of it was actually them as well as the place. And that was really, I had never really thought of, I'd not taken the time to really think about it. And of course it's them, but I do suddenly feel a bit more rootless to Scotland without them being there.
Yes, totally. And I guess, like, the wildness and the way that your creative side comes through without you realizing actually comes from those primitive years as a child in spaces like that.
Definitely. And we were allowed to be, that was what
Yeah.
was just so lovely. We had that, absolutely. We were so privileged to have the freedom to be wild, to explore, and not only as a child, like it also Nethercray helped shape my business, because I used to go there. I started my business in Edinburgh, and I would go down for the weekends, and my grandpa would go out with the chainsaw with me, and he would help me cut big silver birch trunks from thick trees that have fallen to use with my flowers. So I think I still have some silver birch stumps that are set into concrete that I collected 20 years ago from Nethercray that I still use. It's sort of really, it really shaped my work and me, so it was, and Scotland as a whole, the whole place, the spirit of it, it's the spirit of Scotland that is just amazing.
Yeah. Now the possession that you've chosen is a possession from the friend that you so highly talked about, James. Tell us about the possession you've chosen.
He gave me for my 30th birthday a walking stick made from a stick from Scotland, and he has carved it himself, and it is I think it's hazel, and then it bows over into a horse's head, and horses are my other great love, and it fits my hand perfectly. It's the perfect height for me, and it's the most beautiful object. The most useful thing. I use it every day, and I will probably use it all of my life. And it is truly from the ground. It's just the most perfect thing to own. I feel so lucky to have it. And especially as it was made by him. So I know, that it's really been made for me, and I really truly love it.
Yeah, that is something. And also something that you can hand down, to your children and then to their children. And it's one of those things, like a walking stick, is something that will carry on forever,
Completely. And I imagine the ears will wear down as well of this horse's head the more it's used, and it will become less recognizable, but in a way that's even more special.
Yeah. All right. So the sound that you have chosen today are birds singing and a morning chorus. Tell us about where you hear this, and sort of, does it transport you somewhere? Is it your happy place?
I was talking to Fred about it, and he said, what would you think my sound would be? And he said, will it be the horses whinnying when you come out in the morning? And I said, it is, but it's before that. It's the thing that I absolutely treasure. And I'm a really early riser. I always have been. Our work means we have to wake up early, but even so, I would wake up early every day. And I think maybe I have 4 children, and life is very busy, and you're sort of surrounded by people. So to me, standing outside in the morning and having a cup of tea when no one else is up, and all you can hear is that roar of the birds, and they are so, so wonderful. And where we live, we have all the wild birds, but we also have quite a extensive collection of birds ourselves. So we've got peacocks and guinea fowl and doves and chickens, and between them it's this sort of like quite,
oh my god, it's an automatic alarm. I don't think
really
you need.
And it's funny because it becomes background noise, the rest of it, but sitting there in silence before the cars start and before phones
and the
start
children,
ringing,
mama,
exactly. It is heaven. It is beautiful, and it's just so lovely because I also love it. I think I said to you, it's the most wonderful thing that anyone can experience by just setting their alarm a bit early, and it's free, and anywhere you are, it will happen. And even if you're in the middle of a city, you'll still hear the birds singing. So to me, it is really the sound, and I record it almost like whenever I do sort of sit down, I record it. I don't know why, because I can, but it's still so magical to me, and I will send it to someone saying, look, this is what you missed this morning, listen to them. So that would be the sound, I think, for me. And then the horses whinnying for their breakfast over their doors saying,
hurry up, Mum, stop having your cup of tea and listening to the birds and get to my door now. So your animal, I'm assuming, you said earlier that your animal was your horse. Tell us about your animal.
the horse will have to be the one that I mean, all animals, and I think if I really sat down and thought, went through it, would be like when people say, what's your favorite flower, and
Yes.
on that day it's that, and then suddenly
Yeah.
the tulips come, and then it's tulips, and then it's, but no, the horse for me is my sort of spirit animal, and I truly love them.
Did you grow up riding? Have you grown up with them your whole life?
Yeah, we've grown up
Yeah.
with them in a non sort of horsey way, really.
Okay.
We're not a horsey family, but we've always had ponies and horses, and so and that's how we have them now. And I will stop at almost any field I pass in the car and just pull over and have a nuzzle and a stroke with. I just really have always been so drawn to them, and I love their company. And I think if you cut me open, my heartbeat would be the sound of galloping horses. There's something, I think, if you love them, it's a love that you can't really explain.
I feel you. I know exactly how you feel, but it is hard to explain to someone that has never been around horses or experienced their presence. They are my meditation for me.
Yeah.
They are totally and utterly my meditation, and a bit like you going outside and having a moment and listening. As soon as I get near a horse, everything calms. My shoulders go down, my heartbeat stops racing, and you just feel happy. And there's so much at the moment, talking about this sort of the healing of the horse and the horsepower for mental illness and all those kinds of things. And it is just so real.
I completely agree with you. And do you know what I've really thought about a lot this year with the year of the horse?
The horse, yeah.
And people talking about it, is I felt this actually quite sort of like a bit of a sadness, really, because I thought, 200 years ago, everybody would have had horses in their life, whether they were horsey or rode or not. They would have been around horses. They would have been part of daily life for travel and for work. And, we relied they've built civilization, really. And and now it's you're only really around horses if you're horsey. And I find that really sad for the people who perhaps aren't horsey folk. And which is why, for me, with my children, they won't be doing pony clubs. They have no idea what a pair of jumper boots looks like. But they will. I just want them to have horses, that they don't feel nervous of them, that they have respect for them, that they feel their wonderful sort of godly presence in their life, and that they, when they're older, will have that no fear
connection.
Exactly.
No, I'm exactly the same with my children. I feel so blessed and lucky that I have been able to have horses in their early lives. And in particular, my eldest child, I sort of feel like she is half horse already. And it's amazing watching those connections and watching those partnerships develop. It is remarkable. So we're going to move on to maybe a piece of a weather moment, and whether that's a season or a particular day or a tradition that you love. What are those?
Well, we're so lucky. I hadn't really realised how lucky we are to have the seasons we have. I know that sounds silly, because I've grown up with seasons. Of course they happen. I did flowers for a very, really lovely, very interesting man from Venezuela this year, and they don't have seasons at all. And he was telling me that about, and I couldn't imagine it. He said it's just there may be a slight variation, but it's nothing like the extremes that we have. And I'm very, very aware of them because of our work
job.
It's really if you work in the countryside, you are, but even if you don't work in the countryside and you do flowers, you are acutely aware of every change day to day. And weather-wise, I'm again sort of not. I'm not really bothered by anything, and I'm probably not the springy person that everyone sort of. I love spring, but to me, the end of the year is the end of the summer and autumn is really special. I think possibly that might be tied because it's the end of our season. So I feel like I can start to enjoy things, whereas the build up in May is the start of it all, which is exciting, but also means you have a lot. Feels like you're about to climb Everest. So
and I guess you don't get to actually enjoy it because you are so manic, whereas I guess at the end of the summer going into the autumn, maybe you can take a moment to
and the weather's kinder, you know, the summer is hard if it's too hot, if it's dry, you know, for florists it's a nightmare. So I do sort of slightly, I look when everyone else goes, it's gonna be a beautiful weekend, it's really hot, I'm like, God, no. We're in a marquee and it's, you know, so I sort of, the summer is been linked to a sort of slight sense of doom, but whereas the autumn, it feels like it's like everything's cooler, it's still beautiful. And my favorite day is when you can sort of be barefoot in the day but then light a fire and put a jumper on in the evening. And so I really love the autumn, and we do sort of celebrate as a family the seasons a lot, and we live in West Dorset, and the May Day celebrations, Beltane celebrations, are really big thing. And for me, the children are at school in a village here where the big Cern Abbas giant is on the hill, and they celebrate May Day there on the 1st of May, and we go up, all of us, and you watch the sunrise, and there's Morris dancers and drink beer, and it's better than birthdays, Christmases. It's just the best day of the year for me. I love it so much. It fills me up. I start looking forward to it on the 2nd of May for the next year. And so I think that, and then the autumn is pressing apples.
Getting ready to like hunker down. It's all the like pre-work for the winter.
And also there's something nice about mixing being productive and being with people. Like if you've got a job to do, there's this, suddenly everyone, I don't know, it's a really lovely thing when you're all working towards something and you're all having a really lovely time. There's that nice, and especially for me, I can't really sit still, so I'm not very good at like just sort of like enjoying myself. I have to
sitting by the fire and having a glass of wine.
Yeah, exactly. Being able to do both, and then feeling like, oh, I've really achieved something. We've made some cider, we've made some apple juice, you know, we've frozen some stewed apples for the winter. Oh, and we've seen all our friends and family. That's perfect.
Now I can relax.
Yeah, exactly.
That is so true. I very much agree. The last couple of years, I seem to remember like the Octobers have been absolutely stunning.
So beautiful.
Completely stunning. And we've had light till late still, but it's, you know, getting a little bit colder. You can wear a jumper. You're not, you know, dripping with sweat, running around trying to work outside, getting burnt. And I actually I'm the same. Like spring and autumn for me, I prefer over summer any day.
Yeah. You get that long light in autumn that comes in and, you know, drenches everything, and it's beautiful. And everything in the garden also, I actually love doing flowers at that time of year because everything's not quite as blousy and perfect. It's got this little slightly sort of red and brown tinge, and things are starting to turn into berries. And I actually love that more than a big blousy sort of peony.
Yeah.
So
do you have some people that have like a summer event and say, actually, I want it to be autumn?
We have had things like that, and or vice versa. And I'm like, but it's the best time when everything's sort of slightly crinkly and wonderful. But no, yes, we have had things. We even have one person who changed their the whole date of their wedding because they didn't like the colour of the grass was going to be in July.
Oh wow. That is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was a funny one when we all got that message.
Email. Yep.
Exactly.
Right. Replan, reroute.
Yeah, exactly.
You do get some quite funny requests, don't you? Doing events. It is extraordinary the things that come through, and you're like, what?
Yes.
Really?
I know.
But I guess that if that's what you want, that's what you want.
Yeah,
we will make it
challenge accepted.
Yeah, exactly. Whilst you're doing all these incredible things, do you plug a song into your ears to listen to?
Oh yes, I listen because I find it quite difficult to concentrate, and I really love music. So I actually listen to a lot of sort of folk music that doesn't have too many lyrics, because then I don't
Ah,
try and sing along to them.
yes.
So when I'm
Yeah.
working, I listen to, well, the Gloaming is my favorite band, an Irish band, and I listen to them sort of on repeat almost. They're a bit of a soundtrack to my life, and I love them because they sort of fit any mood as well, and you can just have them in the background. And it's good for me, because otherwise I do sort of go off on a tangent of singing, singing away at
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
And
So it keeps your focus. It
it keeps my
keeps you.
focus, but it's
Yeah.
so I am not very good at listening to people talking during, when I'm trying to do anything that's involved. So I couldn't listen to the radio. I'd sort of be too much listening to the radio.
Yeah.
So that's the sort of music that I love. And the other song that I think that just moves me so much is Song of the Siren, and the Sinead O'Connor version, which is just, I think, my Celtic roots. It sings to them, and it makes me want to cry, and I just think it's so beautiful.
When music makes you cry, I think it is just like it's got to be in your save file. You know,
Yes,
there are so many songs that you could be anywhere in the world having the best time ever, but if that song comes on and it ticks that emotion, you're gone. You're a
yes.
goner.
Completely. Or it takes you back to a moment that you think of, like, when you're at school and you find yourself reconnecting with that friend. Do you
Yeah.
remember that time we did that? And so powerful, so wonderful. And yeah, and I think I do a sort of link to the countryside. I love this sort of country, like especially some Scottish and Irish country music. I really love. So maybe I think it all links from one place where my heart
To another.
belongs. Yeah,
Exactly. It sounds like it's all going back to
yeah.
those early days of childhood up there in the blustery Scotland. So if you could return for one moment to somewhere, just for a second, where would you go to?
I would go back to Nethercray. I would go, and behind the house there was this wonderful woodland, and we used to spend, it felt like months up there, but it was
Yeah.
probably days, with my siblings and my cousins. Just to say how special this place is, my cousin Eleanor has the coordinates tattooed onto her tummy. So
Oh,
it
wow.
really was,
Okay.
it is really special to us all. And we used to, and we would, as children, we built what we thought at the time was a fully inhabitable cottage in the woods, made out of branches,
A
and
stick
the
house.
black was, yeah. It had stables, and it was amazing. But actually, probably if I looked at it now, it was, but it was, so I would go back to there, to the pure bliss of creating this home out of the land, which is pretty much
Yeah.
what I do now as a grown up, but
Yeah.
unfortunately with lots of other influences, but and the absolute joy of that, and being with our animals, and with our parents sort of not far away, but definitely not over helicopter. It's
Overwatching you.
just
Yeah.
being allowed to be free. And then I would also transport my four children, and Fred to be with me there doing it too, because I love playing with them as an adult, but if I was a child and I was able to play
Yeah.
like in their child games, that would just be the
Yeah.
best thing on earth.
Oh my God, Tattie is so cute. I absolutely love it. Love it. Well, I just cannot thank you enough for coming on the podcast today. It has been such a joy talking to you and hearing all your wonderful stories. And I can't wait to see what's next. Have you got anything to look forward to? I'm sure you're massively busy this summer already, but is there anything in particular that you're looking forward to?
Well, first of all, I am so honoured to be. This has been the most lovely talk. I've loved it. And it's very good sometimes to talk about the things that you really love, because
Yeah,
it makes you go out, and it's a bit like if you said your wedding vows to your husband again, like it makes you,
yeah,
reminds you of all these things that are really important to you. So thank you for bringing them back to my attention, and making me really think about them. But and in terms of us, well, taking, life's busy and wonderful, and we are doing events, which is brilliant in beautiful places for wonderful clients. We're also starting a flower school at home, which we start 1-to-1 courses next week, which is really lovely because I really want to do something that actually is a bit different, and I really love teaching and seeing other people get inspired. So it really actually is really rewarding, and I'm really enjoying it. And it's not quite the same sort of revved up pressure. So we're loving that. And
so how can people, can anyone book onto these courses or
yeah,
these
so
days?
we at the moment we can anyone can get in touch via our website, which is I can tell you what that is, but and at the moment we're building it up to do more and more. It's quite slow because I want to make sure that it's very carefully done for everyone. So it's a real experience. And the idea is that people will feel sort of like given keys to their own creativity. And it will be around flowers, but actually it's sort of about more than that. It's really, I think sometimes I need to be reconnected with like my own ideas and let them go and talk to people. So it will be around flowers, but also it's in a beautiful place, and just re-sparking or relighting those fires in whatever stage of
life you are.
And so and actually writing the sort of ideas for it has been, again, really addressing the things that I think we all need to keep learning and stay fresh. And sometimes you can get into your own. So I'm really excited about that. And then we're also going to do some sort of a collection of things that people, I love transforming spaces. So we've thought about actually a way that people can bring it into homes as well. So that's a sort of a longer term project, but some products and things that people can bring.
Cool. So
home.
you actually will be able to buy products from you for our homes.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness.
And that's really exciting because, again, it's sort of like this journey, isn't it, of when you make stuff. We do flowers, but we've also now we paint backdrops, and we've been doing some fabric and draping for events, and it all sort of leads on to this thing of like making something ordinary beautiful if you use your imagination. And so it's a nice sort of carry on to that.
But also if you have an event and you have someone like you create this stunning masterpiece, you don't want it just to disappear.
Yeah, that's true.
You would really love to keep some of it. You'd really love to have that in your house, whether it's a reminder of the day or, and I think to be able to have something creative in your home is really
an essence.
Exactly.
Something that, and sometimes it's really, and I think it's also simple things. We're going to be doing some, I sort of never thought I would say this, but some curtains, because it's the sort of thing you can take with you if you move. They dress up a room with very little and keep you warm, and we're going to do things that are quite sort of practical and not and actually I'm a bit like our flowers. We use a lot of plants that can then be planted afterwards, that they go on a bit further than just things that for 5 seconds and then there's a new one out. And so so I'm quite excited about doing something that lasts a bit longer than 24 hours. I think that's the next stage of my journey. Is I'm ready to do things that last a little bit longer.
I'm so excited for you. That sounds so cool. Well, thank you very much, Tattie, for coming on the podcast. And thank you all for listening or watching. Please share and subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And I will see you next week.
Thank you, Tamara.
Oh, thanks, Tattie.